Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, join me to welcome His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, Governor Imo State.
Chinekemka, Asimgeka, Ebonye Ranyawa, Asimgeka, Onye Binibe, Chinemeranyoma, Onye Dika China Zepere, Obonye Yiri Papa Keliwe, Unumana Wabunwa Otuto Diri Jesu, 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 Asim Yaka, Asim Yaka.
Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you. Thank you. The chairman of the occasion, Your Excellency, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR and GCON, members of the National Assembly, both serving and non-serving, members of Imo State House of Assembly, led by the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Amara Iwuanyanwu, members of Imo State and other neighboring states, expanded executive councils. The chief celebrant of today's occasion, Chief Engineer Iwuanyanwu and his amiable wife, the President General of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo worldwide, Ambassador Professor George Obiozo, ably represented by the Secretary General of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, Ambassador Oke Emuche, the former President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Distinguished Senator Adolphus Mahabara, the guest speaker of today's event, and the immediate past president of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo worldwide, the erudite scholar, Chief Iwuanyanwu, the National Secretary of PDP, Senator Sam Dadi Anyanwu, the former governor of Old Imo State, General Ike Nwachukwu, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, leader of Middle Belt Forum, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, leader of Afenifere, ably represented by Chief Shola Ebiseni, the Secretary General of Afenifere, Professor Ango Abdullahi, leader of Northern Elders Forum, ably represented by Reverend Bitrus Dangewa, Chief Edwin K. Clark, leader of Pandev, ably represented by Dr. Alfred Molade, National Secretary of Pandev, Chief Gariwe Igariwe, former President General of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo worldwide, the heads of security agencies and heads of paramilitary agencies in Imo State, the Chairman, Imo State Council of Traditional Rulers, His Royal Highness Eze Dr. Isi Okeke, the Chairman, Imo State Elders Council, His Royal Majesty Eze C.I. Ilomaya, Your Royal Highnesses Ndeze, members of Imo State Elders Council, the Chairman and members of Imo State Chapter of Correspondence Chapel, distinguished invited guests, great Nigerian leaders, the Chairman of Christian Association of Nigeria Imo State Chapter and his members, my Lord Bishops, members of the clergy and the religious, captains of industries, ladies and gentlemen, it is very difficult to speak after an erudite scholar like Chief Iwuanyanwu has spoken. But the difference between the former President General of Iwuanyanwu, Chief Iwuanyanwu, is that he drew inferences from events that happened before 1970. I'm going to combine all the combinables. I will draw inferences from the past. I will draw inferences from the future and the present. And I will recommend the way out of the quagmire. Let me most heartily welcome all the guests to this remarkable birthday anniversary of our great son and leader, Chief Dr. Iwuanyanwu, Aheja Gamba Ndibo. We are here to celebrate our leader, our mentor, and the proud son of Igbo land. Indeed, we've come to celebrate someone truly deserving of being celebrated, and to honor someone worthy of honor. Getting to the ripe age of 80 years, or otherwise what we can call eighth floor, as we call it, is a blessing. But staying strong, lucid, and articulate at the age of 80 is a special grace that only comes from God. I'm not surprised that Chief Iwuanyanwu has been so blessed and gifted by the Almighty God, because most of his life has been dedicated to the service of God and humanity. Aheja Gamba, I appreciate and congratulate you for being a role model in humanity, philanthropy, and humanity. Judging from the celebrant's vast network of friends, partners, and associates gained over decades of involvement in business and politics, I'm not surprised by the array of personalities who have come from across the length and breadth of the country to honor this jewel of Igbo land and pride of Nigeria. I've seen some dignitaries from different ethnic nationality organizations, such as Afenifre, Arewa, Pandef, Middle Belt Forum, and of course, Ohaneze Ndibo. Indeed, it will not be totally out of place to describe this auspicious gathering as a mini national conference. First, we've all come from far and near to celebrate a great Nigerian patriot and an uncommon nationalist, a truly detribalized Nigeria who is ever ready to give everything it will take to promote national unity. We are talking of a man who has spent over 50 years of his life preaching good neighborhood, preaching love and understanding among the different ethnic groups that make up Nigeria. So when we come to celebrate him and also use the auspicious event to discuss the lingering topic of Nigerian unity, particularly as it affects Igbos, I believe it can pass for a mini national conference. And this is more so because the discourse on Igbos and the national unity has been recurring from pre-independence days to the present day. It is also a subject that continues to generate intense national interest, controversy, and sometimes misinterpretations. It is not an open secret that in some quarters, Igbos are still held suspect of harboring a hidden agenda. The unfortunate events of the 60s have not helped matters in this respect. In my view, therefore, The topic of today's lecture is both apt and cogent. Given the pedigree of the lecturer, no other but our erudite chief, Nat'l, I have no doubt that he has done justice to the topic. In the end, I'm sure he has thrown up also more and better insights into the matter. More importantly, I believe that the lecture has further enlightened our brethren from other parts of the country on the Igbo question. We shall use all available media to ensure that this message reaches a wider audience, including our brothers and sisters in the diaspora.
There is no part of Nigeria, no matter how remote, where you will not find Igbos living happily with their host communities, while contributing to the growth and development of the area. I often ask this question: can a man live in a land he loathes? Can a man feel at home in a land he abhors? Will the gods of that land allow the business of that man to thrive? I believe the answers to these questions, obvious capital knows. You can now fill in the gaps for the Igbos. Since 2011, when I was elected first to the Senate, I've taken my time to explore this topic and the complexities inherent in them. I've had cause not only to interrogate the questions of suspicion among the various ethnic groups in Nigeria, but also the issues that gave rise to it. This is against the backdrop of the fact that naturally, the ordinary Nigerian does not have a problem living and working together for the peace and progress of the country. My findings are contained in my book, which I referred to earlier. The conclusion is that the Igbos love Nigeria fervently, with all their hearts and all their souls, and with all their might as well. However, by an inexplicable irony, the Igbos somehow believe that Nigeria and Nigerians do not reciprocate this love. At least not with the same passion. This is the paradox that has continued to define the Igbo quest for national unity. What the Igbos seek from the country is accommodation, not domination. What they seek is acceptance, not rejection. What they seek is friendship and brotherhood, and they are also willing and able to offer the same. There is sufficient and irrevocable evidence from Nigerian history that Igbo leaders have never been found wanting in advocacy backed by action for Nigeria's unity. Let us briefly examine and refresh some of the issues leading to Nigeria's independence in 1960. The NCNC, led by our own Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owelo of our nature, and the Zik of Africa, opposed to the self-determination motion by Western legislators in 1957. He wanted a united Nigeria, not a fragmented Nigeria. If NCNC had allowed the motion to sail through, we wouldn't have had what is today called Nigeria, both in identity and also in geography. By patiently waiting for the North to be ready, NCNC led by a patriotic Igbo man, saved the day. Again, during the Western Nigerian crisis in the early days of independence, it fell on our great Zik of Africa, and other nationalists to provide the stability needed for Nigeria to remain together. Even before that, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe had the true sheer patriotic zeal, considered to Alhaji Tafawa Balewa of NPC, Northern People's Congress, when it came to the formation of the national government in 1959. It was very clear because NPC would not muster enough majorities to single-handedly form the government. They turned to Zik of Africa for support. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe could have turned to Action Group to form the government and become the prime minister. But he did not. Instead, he accepted NPC's proposal, which saw him playing a secondary role as a ceremonial president instead of being the prime minister. This was because Azikiwe reasoned correctly that a national government of only the South was a recipe for disintegration. That was a great sacrifice for national unity and for national cohesion. That was nationalism at its peak. And Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, you remember, was the symbol of Igbo politics, was a fountain of knowledge, was sagacious, broad-minded in political thinking. No wonder he was called the Zik of Africa. Deriving from my earlier submission that you cannot live in a land that you don't love, let me recall that long before independence, Igbos had settled in every part of Nigeria, whether it's in the north, in the southwest, or south. Igbos practically built Port Harcourt, even if it pleases some people now to vainly try to rewrite history. Port Harcourt was built by Igbos. Prominent Igbos like the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Ikembo Odumegwu Ojukwu, even our great leader here, General Iwuanyanwu, and a lot of other great men and women were born in the north by their parents who settled there as their home. I don't want to mention Lagos and the developmental roles Igbos have played and have continued to play there. But suffice it to say that there exist many Igbos in Lagos whose first language is Yoruba because they have accepted that place as their home. Indeed, throughout the 774 local governments areas of the country, from Zungeru in the north to Owo in the west, and from Akwanga to Ahoda, Igbos are found there in many numbers. In most cases, after the indigenous population, the second largest ethnic group in any city outside Igbo land are Igbos. What other evidence do we need to authenticate our Nigerianness and our faith in the country called Nigeria? As I said earlier, there is no part of Nigeria today, even the remotest part, that you won't find Igbos in large numbers, engaged in commerce and sundry economic activities, thereby contributing to the growth of the nation, adding value to the economy of the states they reside, and the blending with their hosts. So if demographic spread is a good index for measuring the confidence of ethnic nationalities in a united Nigeria, and by the United Nations standard, it is, then it means that Ndi Igbo will most likely rank as the #1 ethnic nationality that has unfettered confidence in a united Nigeria. This is for the simple, commonsensical reason that no man will make a home out of the land that he does not love or wish well. In that my book, Reflections on the Igbo Question, I categorically declared that the Igbo question is actually the story of the Igbo in Project Nigeria and their patriotic and fervent desire for a country that offers them an unfettered space for self-actualization and identity as well. But in another way, it means that Ndi Igbo have always had an unflinching faith in the unity of Nigeria, because they believe that the vast geographical territory, the resources in there, and the opportunities Nigeria offers are capable of providing the space they require to thrive. Actually, the question that ought to dominate the national space is not whether the Igbos love Nigeria, for that matter, but whether they believe in a united Nigeria, but whether they have been offered that deserved and desired accommodation. I think this should be the 21st century discussion. While I would rather that we focus on the future, it is also necessary for us to reflect on what has kept the Igbo question recurring. In my book, as I mentioned earlier, I trace our current traverse to the Civil War. I record how Igbos were at the commanding heights of both the military, the academia, the sports, and what have you, even listening to the guest speaker this afternoon. He brought to bear our excellent records in every human endeavor before the outbreak of the war. However, by an unsavory twist of fate playing out, and a combination of several other factors, including fallouts from conspiracies and counter-conspiracies, Igbos became victims of national intrigues and socio-economic brutalization. This is my own summary of the events leading to the war and its aftermath. But in spite of the crushing effects of the Civil War and the hostile official policies that followed, Igbos, like the biblical dry bones, managed to rise again. Yes, the Igbos rose from the ashes of the Civil War to embrace Nigeria again, spreading all over her space to live and let live. In fact, the resurgence of Igbo man after those harsh policies, more than anything, espoused to the courageous and resilient spirit of the race. They derived strength from affliction and blossom in an environment considered hostile and unconducive. With a history of afflictions resulting from an ill-conceived war, the strong desire of Ndi Igbo for a Nigeria of their dream did not wane. In spite of the brutality and huge losses they experienced, Igbos returned to Nigeria immediately after the war, and they embraced everyone as though nothing happened. What does that tell us? It is a confirmation of the indispensable fact that Igbos do not intend to leave. They fully recognize that Nigeria is the only country they have, and are not going to go anywhere. Just as they will not allow any person or group of persons to push them out of the country they call their own. However, I must admit that as a race, we have our flaws. When we reflect on where the rain started beating us, we'll come to the inevitable conclusion that we have made some mistakes, more from the heart than from the head. Because we trust easily, because we are quick to make friends. But the greatest of it all is that we are weak in negotiations. We are often not as diplomatic as we ought to be. Perhaps our greatest bane is the popular Nzobu Nzobu Enyimba. That spirit in us probably is where we have not been able to manage. This spirit probably deludes us into believing that we can do it all alone, or into hoping that someday manna will fall from heaven and give us the day. In the book already referred to, I made it clear that our desire for a Nigerian president of Igbo extraction can only be accomplished through negotiated agreements, as no one ethnic group can produce the president of Nigeria without the support of the other ethnic groups. Sadly, because we appear deficient in negotiation skills, we have not made much headway in this regard. Our poor outing in the last party primaries of the two major political parties speaks volume in this regard. The apparent lack of understanding, the apparent lack of cooperation among ourselves, the lack of unity among the candidates from Southeast may have also played a role in the poor outing. This contrasts with what happened in 1992, when the man we are celebrating today, Chief Iwuanyanwu, flew the flag of Ndi Igbo to contest the presidential primaries of the United Republican Convention, UNCP. I felt proud as an Igbo man as I watched Chief Iwuanyanwu traverse the various parts of Nigeria, canvassing votes and marshalling his plans for the country, not for Ndi Igbo. He was a pan-Nigerian. He came with a pan-Nigerian manifesto. He was discussing the problems in Nigeria and offering solutions. It is not enough to only discuss marginalization without giving sense of belonging to other ethnic groups. Although we had then other Igbos who showed interest, Chief Iwuanyanwu was remarkable because he showed us the way to pursue our aspirations in the project Nigeria. The foregoing explains why I am both excited and encouraged that at 80, Chief Iwuanyanwu has continued to seek answers to Igbo question through his active participation in the affairs of Ohanaeze Ndi Igbo, of which he is a founding member. Without a doubt, Chief Iwuanyanwu has always defended the legitimate quest by Ndi Igbo to have a fair deal in Nigeria. As elders who have seen the devastating and debilitating effects of the war, we will not subscribe to violence as means of getting justice and equity. When we watch our televisions and saw the gory pictures emanating from Ukraine and Russia, when we see the emancipating children of Syria and Yemen, when we behold the carcasses of war in Southern Sudan, Iraq, and Libya, nobody will need anybody to tell us that peace is preferable to war and that negotiation is always better than violence. That is why I keep advising our youth to eschew violence and to the path of peace. Those promoting violence in whatever form as a means of getting what we desire are not helping the Igbo cause. Like I have always said, Ndi Igbo needs Nigeria just as Nigeria needs Ndi Igbo. In that context, therefore, it is our responsibility to explore more peaceful and democratic means of resolving the challenges associated with our clamor for justice and equity. I am a pragmatic believer of acquisition, but I believe in results. You may fight from here till the next 100 years without results. I would prefer to suffer for 2 months and get results. Ladies and gentlemen, as we ponder on the Igbo question, let me make it clear that we can only reap what we plant. When we plant peace and love, as we are currently doing across Nigeria, we shall find that which we earnestly seek. we should take opportunities of the vast space called Nigeria, given our geographical spread, to unleash our God-given talents for the attainment of our goals. What we seek may be delayed, but it can never be denied. For as long as we come to equity with clean hands. On this note, we are moving from an analog way of life, even in our private offices, even in our various thought processes. We are now thinking digital way of life and e-governance. Must we continue on that style that did not work 70 years ago? No. What of innovation? What of research? What of deploying the right type of thought process to think as a 21st century challenges come around? So what our forefathers did, they farmed with the hoe, bow, and arrow. They farmed with the hoe and shovel. But today, mechanized agriculture is the thing that is in vogue. And gradually, we are migrating from mechanized agriculture, from the analog way of agriculture to mechanized way. Igbos can be likened to the Jews. The Jews had the experiences and challenges we are having today. But remember what gave the Jews independence? Israel was not given independence because they went to war. They were not given independence because of violence. They were given independence because of their technological feat of the Manhattan Project. They used Manhattan Project to negotiate with the other parts of the world. And United Nations, led by America, granted independence to Israel. It is not about having your country. How will you manage your country? 1% of something is better than 100% of nothing. On this note, I want to welcome and wish all of us a very memorable experience as we celebrate our father, our mentor and leader, Chief Iwuanyanwu, MFR, OFR, CFR. We need you more than we ever did. And we know you are not in a hurry to leave us. And so, our prayers is for many more birthday celebrations of this type. Finally, I say happy 80th birthday anniversary and many happy returns in good health. I thank you.
Ọnwa na-eti unu kpọọ ya ọnwa o. Ọnwa na-eti ọnwa na-eti nọbara gị okwu n'ọnụ.